Hi guys, welcome to this update video this afternoon. I hope you have been enjoying your Sunday thus far. So we're going to be looking at what is going on across the tropics, and we've got a tropical disturbance out there one to watch for development. All of our models, or at least our main models, are expecting that we're going to be seeing at least maybe a tropical depression or even a tropical storm become of this area of disturbed weather. So it may bring some increased rainfall to parts of the North Caribbean, potentially the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands as well. Eventually could make its way to the United States. So we're going to be looking at what is happening right now and what the models are forecasting, and to see the trends as well. So as we go to the satellite imagery, we can see it's pretty active in parts of the United States and even parts of the Caribbean as well, especially towards Central America. But there is quite a bit of dust around. So in areas such as Jamaica, Cuba, even the Cayman Islands, you may notice that it's very hazy, especially in the distance. When you're looking at the mountains, you notice that brownish hue, and that is the Saharan dust coming all the way from the Sahara Desert in North Africa. It is carried westward towards the Caribbean and Americas by the trade winds, the same steering mechanism that push our tropical waves toward the west. So we've got a bit of activity out there. Northern South America and parts of Guyana, northern Suriname, Venezuela also a bit active, and a few tropical waves. Looks as though another one will be emerging within the coming days, early this week. Now, as we take a closer look at the Caribbean, we can see this little blob towards the vicinity of Central America. Overall, the area is quite active, as I had mentioned, but for many of the Caribbean islands, there isn't a whole lot going on this afternoon. Now, rainfall forecast for the short term across Central America again will be active. For many of the Caribbean islands, mostly those scattered showers and thunderstorms not likely to be widespread for a very large area, and nothing significant is expected over the course of the next day or so. And then for northern South America, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, as we saw, is a little bit active there, and even towards Trinidad and Tobago, there could be some increased rain. But overall, nothing crazy just yet for the Caribbean. But we've got that disturbance which will be approaching as we head into later this week. So let's go ahead and now take a look at what some of the models are showing. We're kickstarting things with the Euro model. So this may be a bit confusing. However, these black lines you're seeing, they're called isobars, which join areas of equal pressure. Now, what we're really looking for is to see them in a circular manner, and the more of those lines we see very tightly packed indicates a stronger system. So these green shadings as well, they represent the precipitation rate. So essentially where we have that expected rainfall activity. So let's take a look at what the models expect, and we also have the forecast time up there. So as we're going to be heading throughout the week, as that system approaches, we see that increase in moisture as a tropical wave, not seeing those closed isobars in that circular manner just yet. But then we see it drifting near the Greater Antilles, Bahamas as well. And then take a look at this. We see that area of high pressure. Now, something important to note is that areas of high pressure in the northern hemisphere have winds rotating in a clockwise fashion. So that is how they steer these systems to the west or even to the northwest, because essentially the tropical cyclones, they move along with them, and they have a natural tendency, tropical storms, hurricanes, they have a natural tendency to want to go north. So the stronger the system, the more it wants to go north. So what happens is that with this area of high pressure, it's going to have an opportunity to curve around it. Take a look at the model. That is exactly what we see Euro showing it doing. So Euro is not expecting that it's going to be making its way into the Gulf, but rather making its way up within the vicinity of the Bahamas near Florida, and making its way around that area of high pressure and heading out to the northeast. That's what Euro is expecting. Let's go on to the GFS model. So GFS is showing something slightly different. We see a disorganized system with lots of showers, thunderstorms moving across northern Caribbean and heading into the Gulf. And at the last minute, GFS shows it quickly developing into maybe a tropical storm at peak intensity. And this is as we're going to be heading into early next week. So it is likely to move across the Caribbean islands through much of this week, later this week, and going into the weekend. And then by early next week, it may make its way into the Gulf. That's what GFS is showing. As we head on to other models, the Canadian model is up next. We see a similar story here with the wave moving across the northern islands and intensifying as it moves into the Gulf. And the Canadian model is showing a stronger system, potentially a hurricane making landfall in Florida So similar trajectory as what the GFS is suggesting. And finally, we have the Icon model. Icon is also expecting that, hey, we're going to see that similar trajectory of the system moving to the west, moving across the Northern Islands and headed to the vicinity of the Gulf of Mexico. We see it start to get itself together, and Icon doesn't go as far out as the other models, but by early next week, by Monday, it is showing that we could have a developing storm system in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So there we are seeing the trends. The only model to keep the system offshore and not moving into the Gulf is the Euro model, but every other model, GFS, Canadian, Icon, they're all expecting that the system could make its way into the Gulf. Now, truth is, we are some days well out, so we're bound to see some changes with these forecasts here. So that is a possibility when we're talking about these long-term forecasts with these potential systems. And right now it is struggling. So the models are not showing it developing in the short term as we saw, because there's a lot of dry air out there. We're looking at this map, and where we see these shades of yellows, oranges, reds indicate the dry air. So there is a lot of dry air ahead of it, and that is going to be acting as an inhibiting factor. It will be allowing the system to struggle. So that's why imminent formation is not expected of it for the coming days. But as we're going to be heading into next week, as we saw, models are showing that, hey, it could reach a more conducive environment in the Gulf where it could rapidly develop into something, maybe a tropical storm, potentially a hurricane, who knows. But there could be changes in terms of the eventual track and even the intensity of the system. But one thing for sure is that if that area of low pressure, that general low pressure center, is going to be moving across the Northern Islands, it's unlikely we'll see any significant development. Why? Because it will be interacting with land. So land interaction is another inhibiting factor. So it basically disrupts the circulation of the system, especially the terrain of Hispaniola. So we'll see what happens with it as it makes its way towards the Caribbean, but it could result in an increase in rain for some of our northern islands. And so I'll be keeping you posted on that. So the main inhibiting factor right now is the dry air. And as I said, once that center is going to be moving across the northern islands, it will likely struggle as well because of all the land interaction. But if it moves into the Gulf, the waters are very, very warm. So we could see something quickly develop and intensify before moving inland. And the Gulf is notorious for that. We've seen that in so many instances over the past years. So it's definitely that time of year to be keeping our eyes on the tropics. And I'm here to keep you updated so that you are never, missing out on what's going on out there. So that is essentially what I wanted to share with you guys in this update video this evening. And I do hope you found it to be very informative. However, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond when I get the chance to do so. And remember to always be weatherwise.